Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, June 19th. It is now 6:01 p.m. Town Council meeting for public hearing for West Warwick Civic Center.
You want that now?
Roll call.
Sure.
I don't think I'll need it.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Padula,
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum. Public hearing, Civic Center Enterprise Fund, proposed fiscal year 2019.
Ernie?
At our last meeting, the presentation of the proposed enterprise fund had some shortfalls. We had expenses higher than revenues. And we discussed a number of ways that the budget could be redesigned to receive more revenues and look at we also look at the expenditures. Again, some of the items we looked at that we mentioned was the rental of the space at the center, Civic Center. I believe it was $100 a month, and clearly that was insufficient for the amount of space usage. So what we have is increase the rental space fee to be more realistic of what that should be. And we also looked at revenues. How can we increase revenues? And the thought was on revenues with scheduling issues, as well as potentially having summer ice skating leagues, that could bring in more revenue. So we looked at, from the revenue side, what can we do to bring in more revenue and operate as well the center more efficiently. So with that, there's some questions. And, Freddie's here, Lori's here, so if you want to go through this.
Yeah. Yes. I'm aware of it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I have one, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
You and Freddie, I suppose.
Hello.
Good evening. 4 weeks ago, you were before us, and you had a deficit in front of us. And can you just tell us what you did to help erase that deficit?
We did have a meeting. We met with Julian, who was part of the wind turbine solar panels. Kind of explained it to us. He is actually said that he was coming tonight, so he could explain it a little bit better. He's not here yet. He must just be running late, but he did say as of yesterday he was coming. But we did learn a little bit about those, how the credits and whatnot. He can explain it much better than we can, but that'll come into play. We talked to Cox for the cameras. We've reduced that bill by $2,500 a month. The water that is being used at Mesnicki Field, the school department is going to put a deduct meter on the water meter that comes out of the field house. The lights for Friday Night Lights and all those good things, they're also going to put a meter on there so that we can see where the adjustments can be made for them to recoup some of that money that we're paying there.
Did they agree to pay for?
Yes,
what
they're
they
going to
use?
put that's why we're going to put the deduct meters on, so that we're going to be able to regulate how much water, like how much. And the only reason why I figured out how this was happening was because I was looking at the bills, and I'm looking at the water bill, and it just didn't make sense how we were using so much water throughout the summer months. Because during the summer, there's not anyone really in either building. So followed the line, and lo and behold, it went to water the fields. So the other way is the ice rink. I explained it last time a little bit, that I had called some different ice rinks, and that they are open during the day. They were far enough, and again, it's going to take some marketing, it's going to take some time to build up that clientele, but there's a lot of homeschooled children that do play hockey, and they can come in, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm well aware of it. I mean, anyone that knows marketing knows that it does take time. It's repetitive, just putting it out there, whatnot. So that's my plan to put it out there. The ice rental in the summer, moving forward, we do have an organization that is part of the regular renters who is willing to sign a 5-year contract to spend $50,000 to $60,000 of ice skating time during the summer,
Per year.
as long as he is able to gain an additional 3 hours during the winter, and obviously that's a no-brainer if you're gonna stay with us
Is that
all
per
year.
year? Is that
Yeah.
per year?
Yeah.
50 to 60 per year?
Yeah, and he's willing to sign a 5-year contract for that, and, you know, if you're willing to stay with us all year, then obviously we're gonna take care of you all year long. And it's just, it comes down to just basically using the facility to its full potential, and that's all it is. And again, I'm one person, I'm the marketing person. I do try to pull off a lot, probably way more than I should, but I really want this to work. I grew up in this town, you know, it's a great facility. It does have the potential to be there. I do have the marketing background, I do have the accounting background to make sure that this can all happen. So, you know, I deal with the kids that come in there on a regular basis. I love that the school is able to also use it. They're really good with us. This budget will work as long as we stay to the strict budget. And it has to be to the strict budget.
What are the
And-
roadblocks?
Well, you know, this year overtime was a little bit of a roadblock, but if scheduling.
Why was that a roadblock though? Like I still don't understand how, nobody's explained to me how there is so much overtime when we have a fixed schedule.
Well, that's the
It-
problem, fixed schedule. Think about what you just said. We have a fixed schedule from 7 to 3. What's
And
going
3 to
on?
11.
Wait a minute, but what's going on up there right now between 7 and 3? Zilch.
So, all right, so let me ask this
So,
question.
When
It-
something's booking at nighttime and that guy goes on vacation, the 7 to 3 guy's probably working overtime to cover that. If I'm just throwing out synopsis here or whatever.
Every time one of the union employees takes a day out, that scheduled shift has to be implemented with another union employee.
There's only 2 union employees, correct? So what happens at 7 to 3?
Well, three at that.
So what happens at 7 to 3 when the person on that shift he's out, vacation, sick, whatever? Who covers that shift when we don't have anybody to cover?
It would be the second shift guy, and you would pull a double.
Okay, what is he doing on that time? All right, the ice rink is closed, and it's
Well,
been weighing
now
on
it
me.
is, but they are closed
All right.
during the day.
Right, but all right, the ice rink shut down right now, right?
Right,
Okay. How long has it been shut down for?
Since
March. Right, March?
Okay, so
we lost the power.
how many weeks? How many weeks? Has it been, and what's the time frame it's shut down?
The ice is getting,
10 weeks, 20 weeks?
last time I knew, Jay, the ice went down when we lost power for the
12
week,
weeks.
Yeah, beginning of March.
About 12
mid-March.
weeks.
So
Right,
now
so-
we're on 12 weeks,
And how many more?
August
So
1st.
it's gonna go back July 16th.
July
It'll
16th,
start
yeah, it's-
July 16th?
I think it's a week to get the white.
All right, so how many weeks total?
about 12.
12.
4 months, yeah.
15 weeks. Now we're paying. All right, so the last time the ice.
Well, right
hang
now,
on.
there's no overtime right now.
No, hang on.
There's only one person that's actually working there.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna make a point though. We have 15 weeks, right? We have. All right, my math it might be off here, but we have. The ice rink is open, and then all of a sudden the ice rink is closed. So we're cleaning on first shift and say second shift that following day, like we normally would to prepare for people coming in that next day. But nobody's coming in. So say that's 16 hours of cleaning, and that's it. Nobody else is coming in. So on the day it shut down, it should be cleaned. I'm sure it was. But now we have 15
Well,
weeks.
There's a lot of maintenance that has to go into with compressors and stuff like that, so. you
So
know, it's supposed to be
daily?
changed.
Daily?
Well, it's not a daily, but it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one day fix.
But we have 15 weeks at 2 people work, and correct me if
Jake,
my math is
You're
wrong.
wrong, because it's only one person, because the other person's been on LOA and
Doesn't
has
matter,
not,
though.
has not been backfilled
But that doesn't matter.
or covered.
Is there we knew this was gonna happen. Was there a plan in place for 80 hours a week at 15 weeks of job duties? Because the
No.
normal job duties would be at the ice rink.
You know, because we didn't know that the ice was gonna be out.
All right, so when we knew the ice was gonna be out, what do we have planned for 15 weeks at 80 hours a week?
It's
That's a lot of hours. and that's a lot of money that's being spent. And I'm not
But
saying
it's-
put the people off, but what
It's
do we have for them to do?
I'll be out that position. You know, I can't move them anywhere else right now.
According to the contract.
So what are they doing? They're sitting there for 8 hours?
So we pay them because it's in their contract, we pay them just to
No, there's.
play
there's-
cards?
They have to, no, there's, garbage that has to be taken out, there's field maintenance around the buildings that, you know, is getting done. You know, there's Zamboni's getting serviced, there's,
We service our own Zamboni?
yes. There's also, they're working with us in the back, we're gonna cut out, I'm gonna asphalt all the back, so they're marking out all the boundaries for that, but it's all maintenance around the building that's getting done also. It's not just, they're not just sitting around playing cards doing nothing.
I'm not saying they are, I'm just questioning, that's not the normal thing. The normal thing would be their normal routine. And when the normal routine is broken, there's a lot of extra time.
But there's still, stuff in the field house that's being rented.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
So you still need somebody in there
To do what?
to clean, you know, the bathrooms, there's these garbages. If something happens, and there's no employee there, who are they gonna go to?
So what are they
There
doing?
has to be somebody there.
That's
when
fine,
that-
but
when
what are they
somebody
doing
has-
during that
has
time
rented.
period when it's being rented? Say it's rented for 6 hours. I've run events all my life, Fred, and I'm not
They're
challenging you with
making
this.
sure that all the garbages are rented. They're doing service outside and inside the building. They're not just sitting around doing nothing. There's all a glass all along the top of the field house. You know, it's all cleaned.
So there's a list for
There's-
them to do
They
during
have
the
a list
time there's an
every
event.
day of things that has to get done.
And does anybody check that list?
Yes, I do, and Lori does, and the secretary does.
Okay.
I go up there every day.
I don't know how to get on it.
So, again, going back to roadblocks, overtime should be under control.
But yeah, because now we have all the part-timers in place that we haven't had in the past. So that's gonna help.
Does this take into account how much we're gonna lose by not getting the rents
You do.
from people renting the ice for that amount of time?
Well, this is a different budget.
Yeah, this is
It'd only be
moving
15
forward.
days of this budget.
Okay,
Yeah, no ice
okay, all
budget.
right, okay, all right, yeah.
Different budget.
So this ice will go back in the last
But that didn't,
July.
last week of July.
Okay.
And then winter hockey season.
so it's gonna be,
technically
so it'll be
starts
rented again,
August.
it'll be rented again by the second week of July, we already have it set to be rented?
It's gonna start going in the 16th. Takes a full week to go in.
Okay.
That following week it'll settle.
So by the
Maybe
beginning-
a
by the
few
beginning of
rentals
August.
Here and there. I mean, I'll probably let the kids just for summer.
But even those
program.
30 days are not gonna affect it at all, just because I know you said it's really tight? Okay,
No, no,
Okay.
no, no. And, you know, having the renter that's currently there agreeing to spend that $50,000-$60,000 next year on summer ice. I mean, there's another group that I know that considers West Warwick Ice Rink their home. And because there's no ice this year, they're at another rink doing a learn to skate program,
So are they gonna come back to
Yeah.
West Warwick?
Yep.
Who's in charge of scheduling ice?
It'll be, the parks secretary now.
The secretary?
Yeah.
And there'll be no denial of ice, especially during summertime?
Negative.
John, you have a question?
I'm just curious about the wind turbine debt service. Like, I'd like someone to explain to me how that number was determined. Like, how did $170,000 get applied to this building? Are there other buildings with an equal amount? Because they would actually be operating with a profit if this wasn't there. So I'm just curious, like, was this number like vicariously picked? Like, who assigned it? How does it work?
Hi, I'm Julian Dash with Clean Economy Development. We've been off and on consulting for the town on various renewable energy projects, including the wind turbine and the solar panels. I will say today, forgive me if we don't have 100% information that you're looking for. I thought we were really focused on the solar panels and the solar contract that we have, which I've given you analysis today. the wind project.
Does the solar panels out on that building, there's no credits going to the Civic Center, is that correct?
Correct, and that's one thing that I thought that the council wanted explanation around today. So the short answer with respect to how we determine wind credits and how they go towards the Civic Center and all of the 58 accounts that the town has is that we do a 3-year average of all of the town accounts, and then we prorate that towards each account. So it's not something that we kind of, for lack of a better term, make up. We just work with National Grid and determine how much electricity is going to each account over a 3-year rolling basis, and then we do a percentage allocation. So if one account, you know, over the 3 years accounts for, and I'm just using numbers for illustration, if one account in the town uses 10%, one account uses 7, and one account uses 12, what have you, we just, it's a mathematical calculation that we use based on historical usage. So that's how we allocate the wind credits towards not just the Civic Center, but to all of the 50-plus accounts that the town has. Again, I thought today was a little bit more about the solar credits, and I wanted to give a little background and discussion around the solar credits, especially as it deals with the budget with respect to the Civic Center. So when we were first brought on board, it was for us to do a holistic look at the town and what buildings were available for on-site renewables, and then we looked at off-site renewables, which is how we got to the wind turbines. However, when we looked at on-site renewables, it was pretty clear that the most opportunistic buildings were Civic Center and Fieldhouse. At that time, both of those buildings needed to undergo roof replacement. That was a cost that the town was going to incur irrespective of solar. You know, you guys could have said, we don't want solar whatsoever, that's fine. Town was still going to pay over $700,000 to replace the roofs because they were leaking, they were damaged, they were all of that. So what we did is we structured a project where we have a third-party provider who has come in and provided the solar panels, and they are providing us power at essentially almost at cost. You know, if you look here, right, you know, the monthly savings, they're not great, they're not substantial. But what we did is we raised $662,000 of grant funds for the town. And what we decided as a town was, let's use the grant dollars that we have. Instead of putting out capital dollars to replace the roof, we'll take those grant dollars to write down the cost of the roof. And I don't have the specific number, not sure who has the specific number. It's about $700-something thousand to replace the roof, but we put about $662,000 of grant money in order to replace that roof so that the town didn't have to come out of pocket for that. And that's what we did. So if you look at the net savings that the town has, we saved, we did provide $200,000 of that $662 to the solar developer in order to ensure that we have a power purchase agreement that was below market. You know, so if you look at what the savings are, you know, just off the gate, the town saved $462,000, and if you keep running down, right now the town has saved $471,000 when you take into account what the town did not have to pay for replacing the roof, plus the solar savings. Now again, if you look at the solar savings that the Civic Center and Fieldhouse is receiving on a monthly basis, it's not huge, I understand that. However, most of that was fronted up front with $662,000 of grant money that we used to replace the roof.
And that goes, those credits go to the school department?
Yes, so we've done an analysis. The credits now go to the school department. Again, we look at the town accounts holistically. We don't look at town accounts as far as, you know, whether it's Civic Center or the field house or in the account, unless the town asks us to. And if the town would like us to try to work with the state to shift those credits from the school department to the Civic Center and field house.
Why do they exclusively go to the school department?
Part of the grant was a solar on schools grant from the Office of Energy Resources, so we wanted to make sure that the credits went to school-related activities. Our position has been that the schools clearly use the Civic Center Fieldhouse for school-related activities, so we could use it then. But you also have to keep in mind, at the time that we were doing this, the town was not owning or managing. Maybe they owned it, they weren't managing the Civic Center Fieldhouse. It was managed by a third-party vendor. So we didn't want to send the credits at that time to a third-party vendor, so we wanted to make sure that they went to town accounts. Fast forward today, now the town does pay those utility bills, whereas the time that we installed the solar and got the grants, the town was not paying it. It was a third party who was actually ownership of the accounts.
Could you find out how long those credits were going to the school department?
I can, I believe there's
Or do we have that- we
probably
have that
18
information?
months worth, or it might be 20 months worth of billings. So I have them all here, and the spreadsheet that I provided you is every bill that we've gotten
Are they
from
all-
the solar
Are
provider.
they all obligated to go there now, or only up to a certain amount to pay back what, to equal out what the grant was?
I'm sorry?
Is there a certain amount that needs to go to the school department, or,
No, so.
I understand why it was done, I just don't, is that something that needs to continue, like, where 100% of it goes to the school at this point?
I believe we can change it. It
Can we
would
get
take-
reimbursed?
I'm sorry?
Can we get reimbursed? This would be more, I guess, maybe for Ernie, but can we get reimbursed for the credits that went to the school department that should have come to us?
Reimbursed as far as from the school department?
It would have to be reimbursed from the school
But then
department.
you're arguing
It's-
about,
it's-
the town owns the building, so I mean, you're actually,
Yeah, it's one hand, it's one pocket or the other. Like, I mean,
there's no additional revenue.
I mean more,
Right.
more going forward, not as,
if going forward, we wanted to send those credits to other town accounts, I believe, technically, we can do so under our agreement with the utility. I just want to make sure that the state who provided us the grant is accepting of it. I believe they will, because the Civic Center Fieldhouse are used for school purposes.
how much per year?
We're not talking about much credits. I mean, you know, it's less than $1,000 a month of net credits that it's receiving. You know, because again, you receive credits, but then you pay for those credits.
Yeah.
So if you receive 10 cents credit or 12 cents in credits and you pay 10 cents, you're only netting 2 cents. It's not the monthly
Better than
savings
zero.
is not significant. You know, I'll be the first to admit that. It's less than $1,000 a month. It's not significant. What I want the council to keep in mind is not looking forward at, you know, we're only saving $600, $700, $800 a month, is that up front we saved $600,000. That was
On the
that
roofs.
was on the roof. The roof, again,
Both roofs.
take both roofs. Take the solar side out of it. The town had to replace those roofs. If you didn't replace those roofs, we wouldn't have the conversation about what use is going to happen in any of these, because there would be no use, because there was lead, there was asbestos, there was leaking, the roofs had to be replaced. And that's not me speaking from a engineering or technical standpoint. This is what, you know, the town came to us and said, we have to replace these roofs. Is there a better way that we can do it? So again, the monthly savings might not be great. Keep in mind, we save over $600,000 up front.
So we're not on a hook. We're not on the hook for any bill or bonding or anything with these solar panels.
You are on the hook to pay for every kilowatt hour delivered. You have a fixed rate. That rate does have an escalation. Right now, you're paying about 13 cents for every kilowatt hour delivered. However, for each of those kilowatt hours that are delivered, you're receiving approximately 16 cents in credit, so you're saving about 3 cents a credit. You are on the hook to pay what the solar provider delivers to you. However, what they are delivering to you is below what your
So what we
cost.
did, we saved ourselves some money on the roofs. And
Yes.
we're making the guys who put the solar panels rich by doing so. Like the wind turbines. All we're doing is paying our debt for $18 million. We see no savings. We're paying, and I got a different perspective about what I know now than what I should have known then, because I would have voted no against the wind turbines. Because all we're doing is paying a debt for the wind turbines, and by the time we're done paying that debt, they're worthless. But, I mean,
I
you
think-
don't
I
have
believe-
nothing to do with that.
No, I advise the town,
He was our advisor, so.
I have everything to do with this.
what we make
So
it
I am not going to take myself off the hook. I have everything to do. I advise the town. I do believe that these are two separate and very distinct type of contracts, right? One, you have a solar rooftop, solar PPA, and the second, you have a wind turbine net metering credit agreement. The solar is a little bit different because it's smaller, it's much more contained. It's essentially 8 accounts that we can really focus in on, whereas the wind turbines are 50-something accounts that we are trying to do a better job, particularly with National Grid, in administrating both the credits and the bills. So I don't want to digress, but the wind project we are still working on with National Grid to provide a much more simpler way for the town, not just the council, but for everyone, to understand how it's working. I do believe that savings are being delivered. However, it's difficult in a month-by-month basis to demonstrate those savings, simply because when we put together the wind project, we look at, in order for us to interconnect them, we have to look at annual values, 3-year average annual use, right? So we look at essentially wind production and electricity use on an annual basis. However, part of the frustration that we've had is that in certain months, wind production is lower than actual use. That will average out over the year. However, in that month in which wind production is lower than actual use, National Grid has a problem because you haven't paid their bill in full, right? And our position is, well, we know it's going to be paid because later on in the months we're going to produce more than we actually consume, and National Grid requires us to do an annual basis, yet they bill us on a monthly basis, and wind production versus actual use never matches up on a month-to-month basis. And so we're working with National Grid to try to get a consolidated bill that does so on an annual basis, that allows us to re-up at the end of a basis instead of any given month where the wind production is a shortfall and they say, well, there was a shortfall, now you owe us X dollars, and if you don't pay us X dollars, because if we pay them X dollars, they're not going to refund it back to us in a month that wind production is overproducing. So it is a situation that is, Kristen, it's super frustrating. It's not unique to the town of West Warwick. It is something that we are working with across not just my clients, but other folks who are like me and represent other clients. We're all trying to figure out a collective response with National Grid to deal with that. So forgive me if I don't have an immediate answer that satisfies everyone's needs today. I just don't have it. It's something that we are working on. I understand completely your concern, and probably everyone else on this council, and definitely Kristen, that it's frustrating, and we're trying to resolve that.
So, and by looking at this chart that you gave us,
Yep.
obviously November, December, January seems to be the worst months, and then March, April, May, June are our highest months. But the question I think the councilman asked is, how do we come up with 170,000 for the Civic Center?
Is that an arbitrary number? Like who assigned these numbers, the debt services to the different buildings? How many buildings are there?
What we do is,
Basically, I took all the costs of the wind turbines, the debt service, any of the fees we need to pay to wind energy, Julian's fees, all the fees that are flowing through that energy internal service fund. And then I took the Schedule B, which is what we're getting the 3-year history of allocations to all the different accounts. And by owner, I took their percentage of usage and applied it to, that was their percent of what they have to
So
pay
it's
for
by
the debt
percent,
service.
it wasn't like equally done per building?
No,
It's
no, it was
based on
basically by
the
usage.
Okay,
Absolutely, yep.
all right.
3-year
The ice
average
rink
annual
used to be 30
usage.
grand a month.
What was it?
The ice rink during summer months, especially trying to keep the ice up, was 30 grand a month, 25 grand a month,
but again, you see
just from National Grid.
how we're working with National Grid. I mean, we work on annual basis, but as you guys know better than I, ice rink uses a whole lot more electricity in certain months than others. So we're trying to reconcile that. But it's not an arbitrary number. It's a number, it's a mathematical formula based on, you know, if account A uses X percent of the overall town electricity, they're applied X percent of credits and X percent of charges.
The only other thing I'd like to see in this budget somehow or another, because we learn when the ice goes down, that we lose a lot of rental time. We've lost the ice, I think, a few times now since the town's taken it back. Is a generator. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we need a generator up there. Once the ice goes down, it costs us a few $1,000s to replace it. Laurie, what's the cost of the ice going in July? 5,000 there, plus minus the rental fees. I think one storm with a generator saves us the money in general. I mean, if we're down for 3-4 days, the ice melts, it's done. And you're spending 5,000 anyway to bring it back up. The paint floats, and I don't know if anybody knows how an ice rink's painted, but it's painted on top of water. And once the water melts, you know, lines stop floating, they stop moving. You know, I think it's a wise decision to look to see how much a generator for that building would
I
cost.
think it'd be a wise decision to see the federal government when they give generators away for free. That's even a wiser decision.
If you can find one.
They can find them. You gotta know how to look for them. I bought one 45,000 kilowatts for $75, and I'm not a municipality. It'll run the town of West Warwick.
Any other questions on this budget?
I have some, not for Julian.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, the one thing I asked a month ago was if we could have a budget, the current year budget, along with this budget, to see the comparison. And, we don't have it, so, this is what I'm going by. I'm going by just basically 2 lines. There's with the general wage, I'm just gonna line my line, with the general wages, and I could be wrong,
Yep.
but, because I don't have the other document in front of me, but,
On the second page, those are the 4 full-timers.
but,
So that would consist of the building supervisor, the
no, I
maintenance.
can read it,
Yep.
but it was Freddie, was your business, were you getting paid out of this?
Yeah.
Yes.
You cut it.
The assistant director
Yeah,
was getting paid out of Parks and Rec, the service center, and DPW.
So there was 20% out of the, oh, actually, I have it. Hang on. This is 2018.
After that, one question, I'll leave. After this one, I want to ask one. I know you're gonna go down, no, I know, yeah.
thank you.
While he's looking over that, can I ask about, I know we mentioned the concessions last time, about how there's like no tape to keep track of like sales. Did we figure out a way to remedy that situation?
Yes, we did. We're going to purchase a $356 POS system that is touchscreen. All your inventory is inputted. You touch the button. Each user has their own code. Anything, you can log in at any time. You can see what your inventory is versus your sales. It charges I believe it's a 1.2% for each credit card purchase. So, which would be good because, you know, we're all parents and we all have credit cards and we all use those and we send our kids off to go to the snack bar and get something. So, that would be another thing, and it will just go right directly in. So,
I'm just curious, if you're funded out of this position at 20% currently, and we're looking at July 1st, with you not in this, being funded out of this, does this mean that you're losing $12,000 a year?
If it's not gonna be funded, if you're not gonna assign another assistant director, then you save that much money. You know?
No, I'm confused. Because, all right. if-
confused what you're
all
saying.
right,
So,
just by position, I don't mean you,
Okay.
but by position. The
So this
assistant-
budget, this 2019 budget is broke down differently than the 2018 budget was.
I'm not in this budget.
Yeah, but the assistant director at $12,001.60 is not in this current budget.
It is not in this current budget, no.
So the assistant director's salary is gonna be minus $12,001.60.
Correct.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I'm just looking at the DPW budget now to see where it is in there.
Well, are you in, I
I'm in
mean,
the DPW budget.
the whole thing is in the DPW budget?
No, I took it right out of this.
No, he's in the DPW budget. That's what I'm trying to find.
But even the commissions that we brought up last time, when you get a commission, where does that show on a line item?
It shows at the end of the year, because you
But it
can't
doesn't- it
guarantee you.
isn't a line
It's not in
item.
the budget, no. it
So
is
your
not.
commission would
It says
be-
it at the bottom of the salary sheet. It does say, it's asterisks, and it says annual salary does not include marketing commission.
So the marketing
we
commission,
can't guarantee you how much, I mean, I could find someone that wants to rent it out for $100,000.
Well, what was
You
it
know,
though?
I
I
mean,
mean, there's gotta
just-
be some
Yeah.
track record of.
there's gotta be something on how you were getting paid the commission.
Okay, so I'll explain my commission, because I know everyone has lots of questions about it. So when I met with Fred Presley, when I got hired, and we talked about the commission, and, you know, say, for example, I brought in a futsal league. So I brought that futsal league in, and it was me that said that once they're here for more than 1 year, they are no longer new renters. They are now renters. And I feel that that's fair to myself, and I feel that it's fair to the town. So whatever they rent for the first year, say, just for round numbers, they spend $10,000. So out of that $10,000, I get 20% of that. The following year, they come in and they rent $50,000 worth of space. I get nothing for it because they are now renters. That was my agreement I made with Fred, and I felt that that was fair. Any events that do come in, events do take a lot of time. They do, and we've all thrown an event, whether it's a birthday party or a big event, so we all know how much time they actually take. So each event moving forward, I do get 20% of. So anyone that I brought in this year, once they hit their year mark, I no longer get commission on. So any
Now,
event,
let me-
I
Let me
do.
just
No.
clarify something, 'cause I'm seeing a lot of wows in the crowd.
Only for new business.
So, first of all, when Warren was our director, he was getting paid $85,000 to $95,000 per year, plus longevity, plus whatever.
Warren never made that money.
Warren with longevity and everything else, Angelo, he made 85.
Yeah, if you include his health care and everything, so he was like
No,
a
no,
$50,000
Angelo, his
salary.
with his longevity plus everything was $90,000 a year. If we can go back and look, you got your books back there, you can go look, okay? At that time, when we brought the Civic Center back in, I was a proponent of hiring a marketing manager, meaning that they get a lower salary based upon commission. So they have the incentive, because Warren didn't have to sell time up there. Nobody had to sell time up there. It was more of an incentive plan. Now, 20% of 1 year, if that person becomes a 2-year, you get 0 commission after the 2nd year. So these ice companies, these hockey companies and all that are coming in here, the first year's a commission, the following year they're here, she makes no commission, so she has to continue to try to sell and sell and sell. So she don't have to, so you're sitting here saying you got,
But how much can you sell? You only have so much ice
that's an
time.
agreement she made. Now, personally, I think it's a bad agreement if I was the guy making that agreement, because if I'm getting $445,000 of revenue a year coming in, and I don't get commission, next year I bring in no new revenue, I get no new commission. Think about that.
And you have a lot of repeat. I mean, just thinking of like the circus and that.
Well, there's
a bunch
no
of those
other
craft
ice
shows.
places. That's a
There's plenty of ice
win-win.
places in
So I mean, it's not a
It's
lot
just
of. You're
they're all
getting
booked.
at this
I
point,
talked to
most
all
of
the
the
guys that rent the ice.
But again,
Every one of them.
think about what I just said. The first year she rents it, yes, she gets a commission. But that same league comes in the following year, she gets zilch.
At that
So-
point, I'm working off my salary at that point. My job is to
Correct.
keep you here. My job is to keep you happy, to keep you here, to keep you to want to be a continued renter. Am I right? At that point, I made my money by bringing you in. Now I have to keep you here, and that's my salary.
To make it clear,
And
Lori's
yes.
not making 6 figures.
So just for this budget purposes, what was your commission for this previous year?
It was probably about $10,000.
And our base
I
salary is
also did
40.
not take any, I did not take any commission off of any West Warwick League at all.
I'm
Any
just looking
West
for a
Warwick League
number,
that came in.
whether it's 5,000 or 100,000, I'm just looking for a number,
Yeah.
that's all.
I mean, I did not, I felt that, one, my kids play in every league in this town. I was not about to take away from something that my kids do.
Well,
And
we
yes.
wouldn't allow you to get a commission off the town anyway, so.
And, you know, I do volunteer for every league that is in this town, so I felt that it was, you know, just one of those double standard kind of things, so it wasn't worth it.
So basically, your salary at the end of this year would be around $50,000 to $55,000?
Yes. And I don't receive medical from the town, just to make that clear.
Thank you.
So back to my other question though, on this, I'm still confused on this. The assistant director was getting $12,000 out of his salary for this current budget, correct?
Correct.
Going forward,
The assistant director is not in this budget.
We don't have an assistant director, so this it's not in
Yes,
this
we do.
budget.
we have assistant DPW director.
We do.
It's in the town operating
Exactly.
budget. So,
But,
Ernie, can you
but
make,
right now, we have an acting,
But again,
we have the position in the budget.
okay,
Position's
but we don't
position.
have, but we don't have one, so where's that money though?
All right, so Ernie, maybe you can answer me so I can, I'm just, because maybe I'm missing this. So we have an assistant director position on July 1st of 2018 through June 30th of 2019. And they're previously getting $12,000 out of this budget to go towards that salary. Now, this 12,000 is not in this budget. Where is that $12,000? Is it in the operating budget that we voted on, or is it out? It can be one of two places.
No, it would be in the DPW salary account for the assistant director salary. And I don't know if it's 100% of his salary?
It's definitely, I think, 80% from the general fund, and I think the 20% needs to get added back.
Right, so that's not in here. So basically, the assistant director, who at this point is missing, I guess, I don't know. So when the assistant director on July 1st, if it's Freddie or if it's anybody else, they're not going to be making, they're going to be less than $12,000. Correct? If this budget passes.
It's correct unless it's modified, yes.
So if you are the assistant director, you would have been out $12,000 if I understand. So,
Any other
I
questions?
do have a bunch on this. The overtime of 10,000.
Down a lot from the following, the previous years.
All right, so I'm just gonna ask this question: Why is it down, and where did this number come from?
Well, we figured it out with the way we're gonna be doing all the scheduling. We're only gonna need one full-timer and one part-timer for each event. So there should be no overtime unless somebody's out sick or gets hurt or whatever, so. But we do have a scheduling in place where all the part-timers will be utilized.
With this $10,000,
with the
or out of it, or out of a different, out of the part-timers?
Out of the part-timer.
Out of the
So
part-timers.
where's the 10,000 going towards?
The
That's-
$10,000 is for overtime. So say part-time, full-timer A doesn't come to work on tomorrow.
Yep.
So then you have to get a full-timer to fill in that position, so that comes out of that $10,000 budget. So basically, that's the only time that overtime will be necessary, is if they are not following, if they're
they're off.
absent from work, if they call out.
Okay.
The part-timers, it's scheduled, it has $19,848.69 at a pay rate of $15 an hour. That would give you 1,323 hours per week, which comes out to 25 hours a week.
That's the information I'm looking
Which is
There
plenty.
you
for,
go.
to be honest with
Okay,
Plenty.
to ask me, I
you. It
I
is
have
plenty, yes.
yeah. I mean, the way that we can save money on that too is that anyone that is working in the field house that is not a Zamboni driver only makes $12 an hour. So if you are not trained to drive the Zamboni, then you make $12 an hour. If you're trained to drive the Zamboni, then you make $15.
Which we try to train everybody just in case somebody's out. so you always have somebody there. But you gotta wanna change that, we can change that too.
Go to the next one, summer program.
No,
Alright.
I am gonna keep going though.
All right,
Just-
so the
just
summer
for
program
clarification.
is $28,000. It's a self-funded program. There's one full-timer. He makes $15 an hour, 40 hours a week. And then I have 2,297 hours of part-timers at 10.10 an hour, which gives me 287 hours per week, which is plenty of time to
Yeah.
schedule that. The Civic Center supplies and expenses is $30,000, $941.20. $10,000 of that needs to go right back to the summer program because some of it was borrowed this year to pay the bills because the bills had to be paid. So the actual budget is $20,941.20. The summer trip expenses is $17,000. To be exact, I spent $15 last year. So I do have a few more kids this year, so I may have a few more expenses. The buses did go up a little bit, so I just
But
gave myself
don't
padding.
they pay for that though, out of their?
It comes out of the, yeah, but I have to use, I still have to have it as an expense because it's revenue. The money that people pay for the kid to come to summer is
Okay.
considered a revenue, so I have to have an expense item. The concession stand, or did I skip one? The expenses, the supplies is $3,000. I mean, I literally have everything I need, and I think I've spent about $350 on stuff so far. I was able to reuse a lot of the balls, stuff I bought last year, you know, just things like that.
I have a question on the concession stand, because you,
Yep.
I know you brought it up last night with, basically, I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the perception I got was kids are just, and they are kids who are working there, right? Kids are just thrown behind the counter, they sell a bag of chips or a soda, they take the money and they put it in the drawer.
Correct. But moving forward, they have the
And at the end
POS
of the-
system.
And at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, she mentioned the POS system. I know
No,
you're
right, but
Yeah.
who, but no, it doesn't seem like anybody trained them what to do in the beginning.
And you may be correct, but I mean, I don't know. I
I
wasn't there.
have to be,
Yeah.
because really, you look at, if you hired me for the concession stand, and I'm standing there, and I'm taking a bag of chips, and collecting money and putting the money in, who's telling me what to do in the very beginning? Like, that
And-
person's
I'm
getting
sure-
hired,
I'm sure a supervisor was there.
I'm sure that he
if the
probably.
supervisor was there, then how is that system, I know you're doing something going forward, but I don't think we can forget what happened in the past, because there's a lot of money that exchanges hands. You know, so who's the one that's in charge of training these kids with this money in this operation?
It would most likely be a supervisor,
Who? Like what position?
the building supervisor.
Okay.
So it would only be the supervisor's word on what was in that drawer.
Because he obviously signs for it.
He signs, but we don't know what was in there. There was no inventory on anything whatsoever. So hypothetically, you sell 100 bags of chips at $100, and only $40 goes in a drawer and 60 bags are missing.
All right, I mean, we understand that the system
We had no
was flawed.
control over that.
You're right, the system was flawed, so that's why.
But
we
this
had to
new
change
system,
it.
you won't be
But
able to
why,
explore.
I was just gonna
with the
say-
supervision, why?
But we discovered that problem, we just talked about it, we discovered
why
it.
we fixed
We
it.
told them to rectify
But
it.
if we didn't find it, what would have happened then?
Angelo, I agree with you 100%, but we found it, it's hopefully rectified, and we can move
But
forward.
we have the same people there though, so if there was no training or no
everybody-
procedure before,
Well, a new
Well,
POS
obviously with
system's
this-
going in, I
yeah.
think everybody's gonna have to be trained.
It's a new system. Everybody's gonna have their own
Login.
code on how to get into the system. So it is only that one a code that's going in every night. Everything's, if you gonna push a bag of chips, it's automatically calculated on who sold it, at
So-
what time.
So
All right,
each
that's
person
fine.
gets a
At the
number.
end of the week, who is gonna take inventory and compare it to the POS system? That's the question I
So
have.
when you, all right, so the system, how it works is you buy a case of blue Gatorade, okay? So on the POS system, there'll be a little blue Gatorade. You push it. At the end of the week, it will show your inventory that you put in, so one case, and if you
I got all
sold
that.
12
Who's
of them,
gonna count that and confirm that it matches?
anyone that is an administrator on the thing can just get the printout.
No,
No, I'm
Oh,
saying, who's gonna
oh.
go in the soda machine, open up the refrigerator and count 12 Gatorades if 24 were there, 12 sold, Who's gonna confirm at the end of the week there's 12 Gatorades
Listen,
in there?
I got the POS system, I got the best you can buy, it was $15,000. Once you put into the computer that I put 100 cases of beer, 300 bottles of wine, if my person at that register does not put that in, that bottle of wine's there, but it disappeared. So I go in myself every day and make sure that there's still that 300 bottles of wine. If there's not, then that number, whatever 4-digit code they have, they'll go into that. But I know what David's saying, and I agree with him 100%. Who's gonna be responsible to check that inventory every day to make sure? The
I mean, most
machine's only
businesses-
gonna show whatever they punch
Or
in.
myself.
You have to put someone in charge to do that. Someone has to be assigned that task.
So who is assigned the task? That's what we're
An
getting.
inventory every day, though, I mean, how much time will
No,
that
I'm
take?
saying a week. It could
All
be
right,
a
a
week.
week, I'm just saying, who does it?
Gentlemen, I've run a concession stand, Mr. Mariani's run a concession stand, Angelo runs a
The
bar.
shift that night will be in charge, and then I'll double check it in the morning.
And again, I'm not saying it has to be done daily, I'm saying who's gonna do it
Well,
weekly?
that's the easiest way is daily, because you're not counting 500 bags of chips at the end of the week, you're only counting maybe 100.
Right. Right.
And then you verify it, they sign in or sign out on that machine.
And then when somebody says, why is there like 15 hours of overtime? Oh, we were counting potato chips.
Listen, you do that on your shift, you don't need overtime to punch numbers in.
It's gonna be automatic.
I mean, if you need that, you better hire some new
So
help.
you can see what's there and what's not.
I still think,
But I'll verify it in the morning.
Great, run it like a business, not like a town.
I still think, and I've listened to a lot of people who are against this, but in my gut, and I've gone over this, and and I'm justifying this, I still think we need a facility manager. And maybe not full-time, but a part-time person to come in to oversee both buildings. And I really believe the animal shelter as well. Because after having talks with the chief and listening to the chief, it doesn't belong in the police department. And the only reason I'm bringing it here, because it does tie in. And there's no way that Chief McGarrett should be writing the bid specs for a fence. I think he has 1,000 things better to do than, be a police chief, than to do this. And I don't think we are all talking about moving forward. I'm not looking about eliminating any positions or taking duties away, but I think the oversight. I think a lot of people have brought up different issues about the animal shelter, the civic center, and the ice rink. And we're talking about it right now, about oversight. And this is not a knock on anybody, but I think we need a fresh person in here with a fresh set of eyes who can bring something to the table.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I also think that you need to be there on a daily basis to see what
I agree.
actually goes on.
I agree.
And I will tell you, there's things that go on that make my head spin. I mean, there's things, I read the Facebook, I see what people write, I see all the nonsense, and you know what, you're not there every day. You don't know what goes on every day. It's a sideshow circus half the time. I mean, the cameras, I need the cameras. You know why? Because someone decided that they
Yeah,
wanted
we're
to break
not
in
hooked
somebody's
up.
car.
wanna be hooked
I
up to
want
the
to,
cameras.
you know, a kid walks out of school, there's a sign for the Zoomer studio. He decides he wants to break it. I had a craft show. Someone decided that they were going to take a 20 by 20 tent and put it in a little Civic in the back. Like, you have no idea what goes on. I mean, the bathrooms. I got new toilets. Okay, you all know I complained the very first year I was here. That's all I complained about was toilets. I got new toilets. You know what I got? I got energy efficient toilets
With no water pressure.
with no water pressure.
So who bought?
I have no idea.
Who bought? I mean, who bought? Who
Again,
signed
I
off on
complained
it?
about it, and that's what
So
I got. I
let me
got
ask
these
you,
energy
who-
efficient
So
toilets.
All right, so
So now I
somebody
have
bought
summer
them,
camp
but we
coming.
don't know who.
One at a time.
And they signed off on it, and now we have something that's not functional.
That was the school department, right?
I believe the school department put them in.
Well, then
Yeah.
call the school department,
So
tell them
wait,
to make it
explain
efficient.
And
the
that's
toilet-
why I'm
what's the
saying
toilet-
we
what's
need
the-
a person in there that can oversee this, so these things don't happen.
So what's with the toilets? They don't they don't work. They don't flush. What is it?
They're energy efficient toilets. They take
They're not made for a big building.
a few minutes to fill up every time you flush it. So now next week I have 150 kids coming in for summer camp.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
slow
not
flush.
flush. Not. I understand. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many things that come on. I mean, I don't think there's anyone sitting in this room right now that cannot say that in the last year and a half that the facilities are not the busiest they've ever been in their entire existence. The facilities are being used. The kids are using them, the schools are using them, the rentals are using them. It takes time. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be like, you know, again, I read, I see, I hear what people are writing, what they're saying. You need to be there every day to see what goes on. I mean, if there's something wrong and that it happens during the day, I'm the person that they're calling. I'm the person that a kid goes to school and there's no toilet paper in the bathroom, just say for instance. Guess what? That parent's calling me.
You're the marketing director.
Right,
So
I'm the
we should-
marketing director.
Maybe
Because you know
allow
what, when I
you-
became,
Maybe we should change that title.
We should allow you to market because
Right.
you're good at marketing and you're good at sales. And that's why I'm saying to bring this position in. So they can do this stuff. So Lori can do the marketing and Lori can bring in the people.
but no matter what happens, I'm still gonna be that person. I'm still the person that when you go on Facebook and you see the carnival, guess what? It's my face that you see it behind.
So maybe David's right, maybe it's a reevaluation of title. And
Maybe some authority, so somebody's overseeing employees up there. Because Freddie's right, he can't be there 24/7. But you know what, Lori's there 8 to 4 every day. And right now, she can't tell a town employee to go pick up toilet paper off the floor, because if she does, it's a grievance filed against her. Or if she goes picks it up herself, there's a grievance filed against her. But if you change her title to manager marketing, then she could maybe leave a list for the employee to do. You know, I will say, I was appalled on the all-day referendum when a town employee cut the grass up there, left it a mess,
It's embarrassing.
and
It was
said,
embarrassing.
it's not my job. But wait a minute, it wasn't your job, but you cut it. If that was why would you cut it if it wasn't your job to leave it that way? That was a disgrace.
And where's the accountability?
And I know people have made comments to me saying, you call that guy working? Because this is what 3 hours consisted of. This is exactly what it consisted of for 3 hours. And you know what? I agree with each and every one of you up here, but there needs to be more supervision up there. And
But that was a rental.
Maybe
That
you
was
lease the gosh damn thing out again and make them give us what we're making, or busting it even, and we're better off with no headaches.
I still,
Because a business will run it like a business. A town's gonna run it like a town. Wasteful.
I still think we should go for that's my opinion, for the part-time facility manager. And whatever we want to give for job duties and job titles, it doesn't matter. You
Well,
call it whatever you want.
I'm having a little tough time with that because you gotta add 12,000 to this budget right now for because it actually says in the budget, says right here, assistant director shared with Parks and Civic Center. It's not in this budget, so 12,000 change does have to go back into this budget. So automatically, it's gonna be 684, 600.
That could be half a facility manager or a third of a facility
But
manager.
you're still gonna have a DPW director, assistant director. That's what I'm saying, you still have that position. So where do you get that money? It's in our
Hey, I didn't
budget.
create the budget.
Our budget that was passed sits here on page 24, assistant director shared with Parks and Civic Center. So either, here's one of two things is gonna happen here. And again, if you don't change the title, then personally, if and when we hire a director, an assistant director goes back into the spot, or somebody goes into that spot, however it may be, then that person needs to start focusing up here a lot
Or you
more.
eliminate the position altogether.
So,
I still think we go with a new facility manager. We create a title, we create expense, and we rework the budget. That's my opinion.
again, I disagree because the assistant director is part of this budget. And that person should be responsible for that part of the job. Right now, unfortunately, since Dave retired, and we didn't fill his spot per se yet because he had 6 months of vacation time remaining, we waited to keep our budget in line for 2017-18, that now 2018, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, that you have applicants already, you're starting interviews for the director's spot, and at that point, when you fill a director's spot, the question is, are you filling the assistant director or not? And if you are, the assistant director needs to spend some time up here and get this stuff rectified. Am I wrong by saying that?
Oh, no, that's correct. We're talking about supervision.
So you're
And-
saying all these
well-
issues happened within a 6-month period since the DPW
No.
director left? I believe they happened from the very beginning. And that's before we were on the council. But these things,
Probably.
I've been in municipal government since I was 17 years old.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of nasty stuff. And I've seen people run things like a business, and people, like Angela's saying, people run things like a town. And I really think that we need other leadership down here to get things going.
Well, there are impediments to running it like a business. And if you look at the structure currently there, on the ice arena side, the supervisor there reports to the Public Works or Public Works Director. On the other side, the Recreation Secretary only reports to the Recreation Director. Furthermore, you mentioned the animal shelter, that reports to the Chief of the Police Department. So you have all
Does this
these.
seem messed up to you?
Oh, it is. And that's part of the reason later on, when we talk about the, well, the recommendation coming in later is for an evaluation of DPW, the Civic Center, and Recreation, similar to what was done with the sewer department. How was this structured? How can it be changed? How can it work better? And try to operate it like a business. Now, I think there are impediments to that we discussed and what we know. Under the current restrictions with collective bargaining agreements, you can't run it like a business. There's no way. It's just,
That's why we need our management rights back.
well,
Well,
I agree,
One
but
of
we
the
don't
questions-
have enough.
That's 4 months away, and the budget's in
Right.
front of us right now.
Because you can eliminate jobs. You don't have to fill them.
Well,
Bernie,
We
one,
have to.
one of the questions that I have, and I know it's probably contractual, once again, but these last 3-4 months, where there's been no activity as far as on the ice side, and I understand a person's out right now, so we're not, but why can't those individuals, those 2 individuals, also be considered Parks and Rec, where if there's nothing going on up there, they can get outside and cut the grass, they can get outside and weed whack, they can maintain the grounds without any issues from or grievances filed. You know, they're up there, it's their property, they should be able to maintain it.
Listen,
Okay, you would
when
have-
there's grievances like that, you privatize.
Oh, wait till you see all
End
the
of story.
grievances.
Or come back with the ordinances.
again, you'd have to look at the job descriptions. Now, there's always something in there that says other duties as required. But again, it's a separate entity, and that's how it's viewed, is they have to work at that entity. So again, I think there are many restrictions that we have that we're trying to work around the best way we can to try to operate it at the present time as efficiently and profitable as we can, knowing that we have these restrictions to deal with at the
So
present
with the
time.
restriction, Ernie, all right, the ice rink is closed.
Mhm.
And we have a person who is dedicated to work at the ice rink, right?
Yeah.
There's no work, it's closed.
He's not just the ice rink. He's a civic center. It's both buildings.
Here's the problem I have, Freddie. Right now, you have 2 employees who work 7 to 2:30 or 7 to 3.
One, because one's out.
When it's fully functional, 2 people, 7 to 3. The problem I have is, what are they doing between 7 and 3 that they're not open?
There's not two.
That's the problem I'm having, and you have a secretary, nothing personal, but you're in at 7, out by 2. Well, you know what? I'm a working guy, I work 8 to 5, okay? Now, if I want to call and schedule ice time for my league, I can't do that in my work time, so, I mean, I think that position should be a 9 to 5 instead of a 7 to 3, because you're not catering to the general public, you're catering to that person's schedule. That's just my opinion.
Are you talking about the secretary?
I'm talking about the secretary, I'm talking about the guy who's making ice for nobody. The guy who's making ice from 7 to 3. Now, here's my opinion.
The schedule's been out.
And I'm not faulting you
Schedule's out
guys.
6 months in advance.
Listen, I'm not faulting you guys. I think this was set up wrong when we took it back. Okay? When we brought back 2 positions, 7 to 3 and 3 to 11, Monday through Friday or whatever it may be. Our busiest times are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The schedule should be an alternating schedule. In other words, if you're not booked on Monday and Tuesday, those guys should be, and we're booked heavy on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you should be booking those guys to work
You're
those
absolutely right. I agree
schedules.
with you 100%.
Yeah.
And it's in the contract under paragraph 4 that it could have a rotating schedule, but we don't utilize that.
The second shift is from Tuesday to Saturday.
But again, Freddie, what I'm saying is, now Monday night's not covered, Sunday afternoon's not covered, Sunday all day's not covered, it's covered by part-timers.
That's where all your overtime is.
And, well, not if you're using part-timers.
It's part-timers there.
No, that's what you
If you're using part-timers, it's not, but again, I'm just saying, I think between the 7 to 3 time shift, that shift is a waste. That should be a 9 to 5, all day long.
All right, well,
I mean, I know that's something that needs to be
Is
looked
that
at.
in the contract? Is that what the contract's 7 to 3?
Yes.
yeah, we could do that in negotiation.
I mean, we got,
Negotiations, that's.
So what do we do in the meantime, though?
That's a shift,
My plan is
If you
moving
give me
forward with the
okay,
ice.
I mean, if
I mean, I'll use a perfect example here, gentlemen. I'm sitting here looking at the owner of Westcott House. He's not gonna have all his delivery drivers come in at 9 in the morning. He's not gonna have them work 9 to 1 when his busy times are 12 to 9. That's all
You're
I'm
absolutely
saying is,
correct, but I
it
mean,
needs to
that's
be,
what
and
their
it needs to be
contract
run like a
says.
that's
business.
what the contract says.
Yeah, and
Well,
there's only so much we
Something's
can
gonna
do.
change.
Again, I plan to market it out to hopefully some homeschool people.
Yeah, but-
I mean, I know there's some college,
Yeah,
and
how
again,
many-
it's gonna
Yeah,
take
but-
time,
yeah.
but it's,
Well, your bulk of your time is gonna be by the leagues.
yes, the
You
bulk
know,
of my time is gonna be
And the
by
schedule should
league.
be set well in advance for the staff, and they should be
Yes.
well, I mean, you can set it right now. And it should be, I mean, you know, when a league books for hockey season, they're booking 3 or 4 months in advance, if not
They
sooner.
booked for the year already.
Book out a year.
So
Like,
when
I've booked the field house
so when
already
that's-
out
So when
for
that's
next
all
year.
done, though, my issue is we have a first shift supervisor, and I guess it's only in a name, but who are they supervising? Because there's no staff and there's no people in the building.
I'll give you a perfect
So the
example,
the
You're
supervisor
100%
should really
correct.
be on second shift.
Yeah,
Gentlemen,
you're
why I'm so
100%.
frustrated with this is, you had, now, the supervisor position was just filled yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. Just filled by, because that person's been out so long, so they had to post that position, that's been filled, okay? That person actually took it upon themselves to come in at 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock because there was nothing going on between 7 and 3. Their own union is now upset with him and wants to file a grievance about it. So this is the problem with this town. The tail is wagging the dog and it needs to stop. It's plain and simple. Things need to be resolved up here. And you know what? I'm fine with this budget. You gotta add 12,800 to it. And
I'm not, because we're voting for a budget that we have we don't have anything in concrete in this budget. We're voting for an unrealistic budget, and I can't support the budget, and nothing against you guys.
No.
But we don't know what the concession stands, you don't know what the rents, it's all hypothetical. I'm not voting for this budget, no way. I wanna see change, I wanna see dollars and cents, I wanna see solid numbers, not we're doing this, we're doing that, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. I don't wanna hear that no more.
And we should see.
We
a
did that for 5 years.
After 4 months, we should see a contract. And everybody says, well, solicitor. That has nothing to do with Tim Williamson.
None.
It shouldn't be on him at all. It should be done, I mean, it's not a brand-new contract. We're tweaking an existing contract that we're using, correct? Correct?
For,
Tweaking.
For the use of the
yeah,
Civic
those are
Center
already
ice
done.
rink.
Those are already done,
So they're done.
yes. So they have the new pricing in them, those are already done. You already approved all the pricing, those are already done, so moving forward for July 1st.
We have the
when
contracts all
everybody
set.
will be re-signing their contracts, because each year they re-sign their contracts, so they will be signing the new contracts. Each new event will be
So
signing.
as of last month, though, they weren't done, but now, I've never seen the contract, the new contract,
Okay, I'll send you.
contracts.
Al's still working on it.
So they're either done or they're not.
Well, he has the copy, and the final copy needs to be done by him.
Be approved by the council, though, correct? Be,
Just come to the microphone.
Now, speaking of the microphone.
I worked with Tim on this. Tim gave me some information that I'm trying to feed into the contracts, but they're not done.
But they will be.
I guess,
I hope that was,
thank you.
well, again, at the present time, basically, we have a hand that's been dealt. and we're trying to operate it within that hand the best way we can. And what we need to do is construct this civic center, like, at least on paper from scratch, determine what is the best way to run it, what do we need, what is the proper level of staffing, what is the proper level of flexibility. And we don't have that now. And part of what we're going to discuss a little bit later is working on that structure and plan and getting it to the point where we know what we need to do. Then we go about how can we do it? What do we need to change? And we know what we need to change in some certain areas, the restrictions that we have. So that's the direction we have to go into. And you have to spend the time and effort to understand and basically design it from scratch and how to operate it as best we can as a business, because it is a business. It has to stand on its own 2 feet, has to be like the sewer department, which stands on its own 2 feet. Right now, it's not. It started off in infancy. It's growing. Now we're seeing where the issues are, and we have to address them. We're prohibited from addressing some of them right now, but if we know what needs to be done, how it should be looked at, what the structure should be, and then go and when we can, try to implement that structure.
Well,
Because at
then
the present
when-
time,
I
we
just
can't.
thought we were past that.
Right.
No, we're not past
Way
that.
past that point, we're up to the point, let's
No.
do something about it, rather than just keep talking about it.
Well, when that happens, then I could support a budget. Right now, what I have right now in front of me, there's no way I can support this budget.
Oh, no, what happens
No.
to this budget?
Well, you need a budget to
Yeah,
operate.
that's what I mean, the money's gonna come from somewhere, it's gonna come out of the general fund then, correct? The money's gonna have to come from somewhere for this budget, what happens if we say no to this budget?
Again, the only change I want to see at this point is the 12,800 into this budget, because at that point, though, you need to make up 12,800 somewhere. Because that puts it at 685, 400.
Well, how was that position overlooked, though? How was that,
Good
it was a position that was overlooked for
It was a
$12,000.
mistake. Honestly, it was a mistake. I will own it all day long. It was a mistake I overlooked.
I didn't think of it either.
And again, anything I've ever done, I will own all day long. So yes, it was on me. I overlooked it. It was just, and honestly, it's out of sight, out of mind. And that's really what it comes down to. That position truly does not exist.
It exists, but it doesn't, it's not filled right now.
Correct.
Because Freddie
So-
moved up to acting director, and nobody filled Freddie's shoes.
Correct.
So, in my opinion, the 12,800 should go back in there. Come July, if they don't fill that position, so be it. That's $12,800 less they have to worry about. But right now, I don't think we should go without it.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Well, it's 7:14.
Any other questions on this
Is
budget?
there a way to, I mean, we should be looking at this before we get to next year, I mean, like, I think in like maybe 4 to 6 months, look and see where we're at this point.
I
correct?
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then you'll see the changes.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I mean, you give it a shot.
a couple points. What the council could do is reduce the startup repayment amount, $35,000, by that $12,800. That would provide for the, and increase the general wages by that amount. That would provide for the 20% of the assistant's salary. And again, that money is for repayment to the general fund for the upfront expenses. Again, the critical thing at this point is balancing the budget and then moving forward with a balanced budget. So that could be done to,
So it's a corrective action plan we're doing right now, basically.
well,
Another one, steal from Peter, pay Paul, and let's see what happens.
Well, again,
No, it's
this
all
is-
within this budget.
This is something they're paying us back. And I understand what you're saying, Angelo, but if they can only pay us back 22,000 versus 35, at least that revenue's in there for 12,800. At least it's in there, and we have more of a solid budget with that, the 22,000, you know.
I heard too many times, let's move forward. Let's move backward, correct our mistakes, then we move forward. That's my opinion.
I just think we should,
But you
in
got
4
4
months, we
other
should
ones
have a
here.
workshop, I agree with that, maybe in October, November. before November, I guess.
Well,
but-
well, I agree. We should have monthly reports for the Civic Center like the other departments, so
Well,
we'll do that.
I'm gonna suggest this as a council. Again, election time's in November, so I don't know who's gonna be here, who's not gonna be here. The only two I can guarantee is Jay and John. What I would suggest at that point, especially having workshops, contract workshops, or what the council like to see in contract changes and whatever else. So when you start negotiating contracts, specifically this one and whatever other one you want to talk about. And I think whoever's here in November should start discussing that right away. Because you're going to be in contract negotiations in January all the way to June. So I would suggest having workshops so when they're negotiating, we're not surprised, or whoever's up here is not surprised at what's in front of them. Or they pass the contract and 6 months later they realize that was in the contract because they didn't read it. So, you know, I would suggest that at that point. So, right now, I have a motion, I'll make a motion to reduce capital startup course repayments to $22,200 and increase assistant director $12,800.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll take a roll call vote on the budget. Jay?
No.
Angela?
No.
Jay?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
5 minutes?
Ayes have it, yeah.
You still got 2 more meetings, bud. Happy summer vacation.
Hey, when Coventry doesn't pay us for the sewers, how much I gonna put on our tax?
We're gonna plug it.
Yeah, but how much I gonna